I would like to acknowledge that this video is being filmed on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or First Nations people who may be watching this video today. Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a Books Beside My Bed video for you where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. This does encompass a reading vlog, which I will leave linked on the screen. I'm not going to be talking specifically about those books in this video. I'll mention that I've read them, but that's about it. But some of those books are included in some of my stats for the last 7 days. So this is my reading week from the 23rd until the 29th of July. I read a total of 12 things, 2,187 pages, and my yearly reading total is 354 books. The two books from my most recent reading vlog are my Christmas in July picks. So there was Meet Me Under the Mistletoe, which is a ginormous anthology of contemporary, kind of darkish Christmas stories with various characters. Some of them are from established series by authors, others are introductions to series, and some are just standalones, I think. And also The Mistletoe Motive by Chloe Leese, which I absolutely adored. This one is an office place romance between two rivals who work in a bookstore, and it was honestly just delightful. So those are my picks for my Christmas in July vlog. That's linked on the screen, so go check out my full thoughts in that video. After that, I wrapped up my Love in the Night readathon TBR, and the last book that I managed to get to was Hot and Badgered by Shelley Lawrenston. This is the first book in, I forget what the series title is called, and this one has been one that I've heard about so much and I was really excited to get to, and then I didn't love it as much as other people did, and it makes me really sad. Pretty much my notes say I tried. I really did try, and it could have been a combination of when I read it. I wasn't feeling the greatest and it was a really busy weekend when I picked it up, but even still, it was tough going. So this is the story of three sisters who are all badger type shifters. One is a full badger, the others are kind of crossed with other animals. Like, the concept of this world is really cool because you have various shifter groups, and if two different types of shifters have a baby, then like that child can have really strange animal attributes based on both parents, which I love as a concept because I think it really gives you a whole lot of potential for things with those characters. Anyway, these sisters are really close together. They end up getting caught up in a whole bunch of things which end up dragging a grizzly bear shifter named Berg into their orbit, and he begins to fall for the oldest sister, Charlie. I really loved the sister dynamic. I really loved the characters, but there were so many characters in this book and so much was happening all the time. It is very much an establishing book. There's a lot going on. It's pretty much action scene after action scene after action scene, which normally I love, but there was so much of it going on that I just actually couldn't keep characters straight, places straight. Like, I was really getting mixed up and turned around, which I don't know. It's tough. Like, I will probably give the second book a go and see if it kind of evens itself out a little bit. But yeah, this one was tough to get through, which, as I said, made me really sad because I know so many people who love this book and I desperately wanted to love it. So we'll have to see if I can give it another go at some point. I also finally read Blackwater Sister by Zen Cho. This was one of my physical TBR books that I had to read this month. The others may or may not be getting read at this point in time. I actually listened to the audio for this and read along at the same, well, I listened to the audio for the first part of it, and then when I had a chance to actually sit down and read the book as well, I was doing both at the same time. This is a really cool sort of magical realism type story. We have Jess, who is the main character. She is a lesbian, but she is closeted, and she and her family have just moved from the US to Malaysia. Her parents are originally from there, but she has grown up her entire life in the US, so she doesn't know anything different. And so this move has kind of upset her life balance, and she's kind of adrift herself with what she wants to do. And then she starts hearing voices, and it turns out that the voice inside her head is her grandmother, who had passed away and is now haunting her, essentially. And her grandmother, Amma, used to be the medium for a deity called the Blackwater Sister. And sort of a local business slash gangster has offended the Blackwater Sister, and so Amma is trying to use Jess as a vehicle for taking revenge on the person who offended her god. And it is really interesting and really cool, and like the setting was fantastic, and Zen Cho did a really great job of just building atmosphere, and I really enjoyed it. Then I read 4 short stories. They're all about 34 pages long, by Eva Fox. Eva Fox is a New Zealand author who lives in Australia, and she wrote a series called Grafton Fire and Rescue, which is set in New South Wales and is sort of an Australian firefighter short story series. I read 4 of them. They're all insta love stories. Like, they're super short and super to the point. I was sending a message to some people because these have a lot of Australian slang, like things that I would never dream of saying, and yet every time a character said it, I was just laughing my head off because they're not what I would use in conversational Australian English, but they were in the book. So take that as you will. So the first book is Owen, and this is a romance between Owen and a single mum called Holly. Holly has a young son, and she crosses paths with Owen when she ends up nearly walking past an active fire scene. Holly in this book just found herself in a lot of situations where she probably shouldn't have. But, you know, single mum, tired, not paying attention to her surroundings. I think about 3 accidents happened to her in this story, and it's only 34 pages long. Anyway, Owen is smitten with her, and he ends up saving her multiple times, and that's their relationship. Then Jack is the second book, and this is Jack's story and his second chance relationship with a woman named Eden. They had dated when they were younger, and then Eden got cold feet when their relationship got too real too quickly, and so she broke it off. And now their paths have crossed again, and Jack never got over her, and Eden has realised that perhaps she never really got over him either. The third book is Finn. Finn is a member of the fire crew, and he's been friends with Zara for the longest time. Like, Zara and his sister were friends, but he was closer in age to Zara, and they got along like a house on fire. So this is a childhood friends to lovers story. Zara is a primary school teacher, and then a series of accidents end up causing them to spend more time together and to view each other in a different light. And then finally I read Hunter, which is actually book 5. All of these 4 books were on Kindle Unlimited. The 4th book wasn't, so I didn't read it. This is a single dad second chance romance between Hunter and his teenage sweetheart. They went their separate ways, and Hunter eventually got married and had a child. His wife passed away from illness, so there is that historical off page, and their paths cross when his son ends up running into Eden's cafe, and then they end up spending some time together. This one does include discussions of difficulty conceiving and then having the miracle baby at the end, so if that's not your thing, steer clear of it. But all 4 of these were just super short. Like, if you're in the mood for just something really, really short and very steamy, that's what these are. If you're looking for some deeper plot and some character development, you're not necessarily going to get them. Then I read New World Stay With Me by Lily X. This was a book I had out for review on NetGalley. It is a sapphic sci-fi romance. It was really fun. So you have Cedra, who lives on a closed farming colony planet. She has been alone since her ex-girlfriend left and took her money. Toxic X warning in this book. Anyway, she decides that she needs some help with maintaining the house, and so she orders a robot to clean her house. But when the package arrives, it turns out that it's not a robot, it's actually a real woman who is a socialite on the run. Twyla has been forced into an arranged marriage, and before the marriage actually occurs, she escapes, and she ends up shipping herself off, passing herself off as a robot from her father's company, and then has to convince Cedra to let her stay. This was a really cool world because it also has a paranormal element in here, so it's not just sci-fi. The inhabitants of this planet, or really humanity, has evolved to a point where people no longer live on Earth, but a lot of the characters that live on this colony planet have been modified at some point to become something other than human. So there are quite a few characters who have vampiric qualities, there are some who have beast qualities, and all of these help them to survive on this planet. Sapphic, vampires, sci-fi, loved it, highly enjoyable. Just be cautious going into it of the Toxic X and also toxic parents, just as an FYI. I also read Little Souls of Fire by Cleo Evans. This is the 10th and final book in the Creature Cafe series. This is finally the barista's story. It is an MMF novella, and you have the relationship between the barista, who is a Grim Reaper, Lucifer, and a human woman named Trixie, who the barista has been crushing on through the entire series. Everything gets very, very complicated when Lucifer ends up finding out that he has a mating bond with Trixie, and this is despite the fact that he hates humans with a passion. The whole series he's been trying to kill everyone, and suddenly he realizes Trixie is his mate, as well as the barista. This was fun and entertaining. I mean, it's only 145 pages long or something like that, so again, you're not going to get huge amounts of character development between any of the characters, but you know, there were some very fun and entertaining scenes. For those who need content warnings, there is breeding kink knotting in here. There is creative use of a tail. There's also kidnapping and violence and all of that sort of stuff, so be aware of that going into it. But honestly, I'm, happy that I've got through the entire series. And it's all on KU, so if you want something quick and easy to binge that's paranormal and monster romance, this is probably the series for you. Then I read the first 2 books in the Tech Witch series by MJ Scott. MJ Scott is an Australian author. This is an urban fantasy series with a romance plot through it. The books do not end in HEAs, so be aware of that, which is why I'm leaning more urban fantasy than paranormal romance at the moment. The first book is Wicked Games, and the series follows one couple. So you have Maggie Lachlan, who is basically a technology whisperer, and people have nicknamed her the Tech Witch because she can pretty much solve any coding problem that people have. And she is hired at the start of this book by billionaire game owner Damon Riley, who owns a company called Riley Arts, and they produce the highest quality, most popular VR games available. The world is kind of dystopian. It's set in San Francisco post a really big earthquake that basically reshaped the landscape. Damon's company is about to launch a new game called Archangel, and some things have been going wrong. There are some glitches and the beta testers have been going missing. And so he hires Maggie to investigate what the problem could be. We also find out in the first part of the book that Maggie is the daughter of a witch. She didn't get along with her mother. Her mother passed away when she was 13. She knows that her mother was not a particularly good person. She exploited people for money. She used her magic for, less than stellar purposes. And all that Maggie knows is that she didn't get any of the magic powers, so she believes herself not to be a witch. However, she ends up going in to test Damon's new game, and she has this experience in there. And suddenly things start going weird, and she discovers that actually she does have magic. She is a witch, and something happened to suppress that. And suddenly she has a demon on her tail trying to get her because she was his, magical battery for many, many years. The conflict in here really arises because Damon has a real issue with witches, and he finds out after the two of them establish a relationship, so that causes the conflict. So if you don't like miscommunication, skip this one. Also, content warnings for death of a parent, off-page, historical, death of grandparents, off-page, historical, but it does have a significant impact on one of the main characters, and also there is the death of a very close friend, plus kidnapping, violence, all of that sort of thing. So be aware of that going into it, because it then informs the second book, which is Wicked Words, and Maggie is really dealing with PTSD and trauma from losing her friend as a result of everything that happened in the first book. And she is also estranged from Damon, and he very reluctantly calls her in to help with a problem that he's having. He and his company are being threatened, and it looks like it's coming from Maggie, but he doesn't believe that it's her, but he can't prove that it's not. He wants her to help investigate what's going on. I'm going to leave it there because otherwise I'm going to go into spoilers for the whole thing. But I really liked the concept of this world. I really kind of liked this idea of magic. The demons are really creepy, and I also enjoyed that, particularly in the second book, we get sort of a more expanded look at the sort of the magical ruling council, the magical police that exist in this world as well, as a sort of stopgap measure for everything. So the whole thing was just very interesting. I'm going to definitely continue the series. I found this author on TikTok and found the series on TikTok. So for me, this was, kind of a win. I mean, it doesn't have all the things that I love in it, but it definitely has enough to hold my attention, and like I said, I'm going to continue reading it. So those are all the books that I read this week. In the comments, I'd love to know if you have read any of these, or feel free to share something that you have been reading and loving in the last week. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave any kind of water emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.